Hello, I'm the recently disembodied head of Grin Grimsley, and welcome to the very scary, very spooky Halloween special of Grin Reviews. When management told me that I was going to do a Halloween special, I asked for their scariest game they had, and they did not disappoint. In this game, you play as a disembodied head, which I find I'm recently quite capable of relating to. Your head is chased by 4 specters through an endless, inescapable labyrinth. This game is so frightening, so fearful, and so horrifying that I can barely utter its name. Ladies and gentlemen, for your morbid curiosity, I present to you Pac-Man on the Atari 2600.
This is Pac-Man on the Atari 2600. And this is Pac-Man on the Atari 2600 if you turn the color switch on. It is far less macabre when the color is turned on, but it does make it a lot easier to play. So let's go with the color on for this review. As I mentioned in the introduction to this video, you play as a disembodied head who seems to be called Pac-Man. However, if you look at the front cover of the cartridge, it seems that he does have hands and legs, so he's not so much a disembodied head as he is a head, and that is his body. So perhaps I was jumping to a premature conclusion when I stated that Pac-Man was a disembodied head. If anything, he is a bodied head. As you can see, when you boot up the game, you find yourself, Pac-Man, in a labyrinth filled with small rectangles. The object of the game is to run around the maze or labyrinth and collect as many of those little rectangles as you can. Those rectangles give you points, and when you've collected all those rectangles, you finish the level and progress to the next one. However, as Harry Potter or Theseus would be quick to tell you, this labyrinth is not without its danger. The challenges Pac-Man faces in this maze is not a minotaur, but instead 4 ghosts. The ghosts in the game are not really the creepy kind of ghost, but instead make me think of It's the Great Pumpkin Charlie Brown. But this is in no way a negative, and me comparing the graphics to Charlie Brown should not be taken in any sense as a negative thing. Charlie Brown has absolutely beautiful visuals, and the visuals in this game are pretty good themselves. You can tell exactly where the maze is, you can tell that the ghosts are ghosts, or maybe jellyfish, and even though Pac-Man is a strange looking creature, it does look sorta like the cartoon version of him you find on the cartridge. So I think as far as representations hold up, the graphics are actually quite good in this game. The only real downside I could find in the graphics is that the ghosts flicker quite a lot. It's not really too bad because most of the time you're looking at Pac-Man and the ghosts are in your peripheral vision, so you don't notice it too much. But when you start noticing it, it is a bit distracting. However, if early Supernatural has taught me anything, it's that ghosts do in fact flicker, so I think I can excuse even that. If a ghost touches you, you lose a life, and if you finish a level, you gain a life. And just like most games on the Atari 2600, when you run out of lives, your game is over. However, against these ghost defenses, you are not. In the 4 corners of the screen, there are large squares, and if you eat these squares, you become able to eat ghosts. So in a way, I suppose they're proton packs, and I can confirm that busting makes me feel good. It definitely makes your score feel good because the way you can rack up the high score is eating as many ghosts as you can. Another way to rack up the high score is to eat the large square that sometimes appear underneath the ghost's chamber. I'm not really sure what it's supposed to be, but I like to imagine it's a golden block, mainly because ever since I was a kid I've always wanted to try to eat golden blocks, and this game finally fulfills that fantasy. Every time you complete a level, the following level is slightly faster, and by that I mean the ghosts is slightly faster. It becomes increasingly difficult to outrun and outmaneuver them. The controls in the game are quite simple, or at least they would be if I still had a body. All you have to do to move around your Pac-Man is to jiggle around your pleasure stick. The red button serves no purpose except for resetting the game, which I found to be a pretty cool use for the red button. Instead of making it completely useless, they made you not have to bother to lean over and reset the game on the console. The game also has 2 different difficulty settings and a multiplayer option, which I just found to be fantastic. But now let's talk about negatives in the game. I've already mentioned that the ghosts flicker a fair bit, but this isn't the real problem in the game. The main problem is the collision detection, or more of the lack thereof. The collision detection often fails in strange ways. For instance, it seems that your mouth doesn't count as part of your character, so if the mouth is open when you're heading towards a rectangle, you don't collect it. This is a minor problem that you can get used to, but if you're in a later level and having to move really fast, it can be quite annoying to basically be completely over top of a rectangle and then turn around to dodge a ghost and find that you didn't in fact collect it. A further problem with the hit detection is sometimes the ghosts manage to get you when it doesn't feel like they've actually touched you at all. And sometimes, rarely, but sometimes the ghosts just pass straight through you. When this first happened, I was quite surprised, but now that I think about it, in movies ghosts can often pass through people, so maybe that was just what they were going for. These collision detection issues are annoying when they happen, but they're not game destroying like they are in Planet Patrol. So even when they happen, you can usually keep playing the game fine. Overall though, these are minor negatives on a very fun game. It gets fast-paced quick, and it's very fun to try to beat your high score. So if you're looking for a good game to play this Halloween, I do certainly recommend Pac-Man.
So there you have it. If you're looking for a super spooky game to play this Halloween, I highly suggest you head, see what I did there? Down to your local video store and pick up a copy of Pac-Man on the Atari 2600.